What do we think of when we hear the words Champions League? Perhaps titles, teams, achievements? I wanted to look more into the topic, so I did some research. There was one question that made me dive deeper. What factors have had the biggest impact on making the Champions League into what it is today? And to do that, I studied its history and the factors that made the Champions League into what it is today. And they were the qualifying system, the elimination format, and the winning dynasties. We first have the qualifying system. In the early years of the European Cup, the qualifying system was very simple. The champions of each country and the holders of the competition qualifies into next season's European Cup. But in the 1997-98 season, UEFA made an expansion. Now the champions and runners-up of the top 8 European leagues could enter. In the 1999-2000 season, UEFA made another expansion. Now the top 3 leagues of Europe got 4 participants based on strength of schedule. And the top 4 to 6 leagues of Europe got 3 based on the same format. There would now be 71 teams participating, which meant that 3 qualifying rounds were required. That was the last expansion, as the format introduced in 2000 is still the same today. Next up, we have the elimination format. In the early years of the European Cup, the elimination format had 32 teams with 5 rounds. Teams played 2 matches. Whichever team scored the most goals overall would advance. If it was tied, the away goals rule was required, and then extra time. But after the European Cup was renamed to the Champions League, it changed. The new format still had 32 teams, but 2 group stages and 3 more rounds now. The winners and runners-up of the first group stage would advance based on points. They would play 6 matches. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. And then they would advance to the second group stage with the same format. And then they would play 2 more rounds before the final. If the teams were to be lucky enough to make it to the final, it would only contain 1 match. But in 2003, the format was finally changed to how it is today, as the second group stage was modified. And since then, the away goals rule has also been abolished. Last of all, we have winning dynasties. There have been many great dynasties that have won the Champions League over the years. We first have Real Madrid. This shouldn't have came as a surprise if you were a soccer fan, as Madrid have won the competition the most times. They won it 5 times in a row from 1956 to 1960, and also 4 times between 2014 and 2018. There was El Grande Inter, who won the competition 2 times in the 60s. Benfica, led by Eusebio, that also won it 2 times in the 60s. Ajax and Bayern each won it 3 times in a row in the 1970s. And Liverpool 2 times in a row in the 1970s as well. There was AC Milan, who dominated from the late 80s to the early 90s. Juventus that got to 3 consecutive finals in a row between 1996 and 1998. There are many, many more. So what do you think the Champions League will become in the future? Successful, fierce, etc. Let's hope it does. For more information, check out my blog.